When you look at what you're going to do into the future, Colleen, and you see the opportunity in real estate, what is your thought process around real estate these days in terms of what you're trying to do? Are you looking at it as a kind of a side hustle? Are you looking at it as continuing to grow now for the legacy of the kids? What is the space that real estate holds for you and Bob now and or your family?
I think it's sort of twofold. I think it will always continue to be a foundational asset to our portfolio that I do see being something that can be passed on to the kids. They've been a part of a lot of it along the way. They're very familiar, and several of the kids are quite interested in it. So I see that as an ongoing. It's also my youngest, who's 18 now, made the comment the other day of how school and formal education really has not taught her much. She's learned the majority of her valuable education has come from TikTok, which is a little scary.
Sure. Yeah.
But somewhat true. And it's interesting to me what is not being passed on to our kids. And I think at a time when nobody had a lot of extra disposable income, sort of our generation, our parents' generation, the thought of investing in real estate was superfluous to be taught, because really, if you could afford your own home, that was what you were striving for. But now financial education is so important, and really not being, it's glossed over at best, I find, with the K-12 education system that we have in Canada. There's a few little programs that pop into the school and teach them how to run a little company or a few things, but the basics of credit card debt, how you would want to try to save over time, living within your means, none of this sort of foundational financial knowledge is really being passed on to our kids. And it's a gap. I think that would be something I'd really enjoy being part of. I'd joined a group quite early on in its existence here in Calgary. It's called the 51. And its name comes from the fact that women represent 51% of the population, and yet much smaller percentage of venture capital dollars when it comes to funding startups. And it's kind of neat, over the course of the past handful of years, that group has grown to 23,000 plus people. It's not just Alberta based, although that's still where we all live. They dollars that have gone to startups in so many industries, food and ag and tech. We're looking now at 30% of venture capital dollars for tech startups are going to female-founded or female co-founded companies here in Alberta. And the national average is 13. So where we often see Ontario being the center of Canada, if you want to have venture capital dollars into your tech startup, as a woman, this is the place to be. And I think from our oil and gas history, we've always been quite entrepreneurial in this province.
Yeah.
But it's kind of neat to see that with a lens of Canada, and the numbers get even worse if you go south to the US. There's kind of a lot of interesting change coming here. And the more that we can push down that learning to the younger generations, the more that they'll be ready to take on the next challenges of industries that they'll be part of haven't even been invented yet.
Wasn't that the truth? I love that, by the way. I think that sounds amazing, and look forward to hearing more about that.